All right, what's up everyone? Duquesne23 here, come to you with FORGEHUB, and this is going to be the start of something fantastic, and that is Halo news. Yes, I am going to be bringing Halo news over to FORGEHUB, which is exciting because that way y'all can, get some of the latest news, some great opinions and stuff, because, all my opinions are wonderful, especially about race, right? Race is the greatest game mode ever. So this is just going to be over, Halo news and everything here on FORGEHUB. Normally this will be coming out much quicker and more relevant whenever news does come out. Like, so if something new comes out, we'll normally have a video up that same day. But since this is the first one, we're going over a bunch of different things, and we're just going to kind of recap a few little important news things that have been happening here recently, as well as some kind of wish list things for some Forge items. Since this is FORGEHUB. Sorry to interrupt myself there for a second, and look at this, I'm wearing a different shirt. Oh my gosh. No, this is just because some news about Joseph Staten has come out that he has joined 343. Now he will be the campaign lead over there at 343, and he'll be just helping, the campaign get to where it needs to be for release. And this is amazing news. Now it is a little bit worrying on the fact of, where was the state of the game where he needs to come in and kind of be the lead over campaign and get things pushing, out so it can actually release with, top-notch quality. But it's just one of those things where even if the game was in a rough state, which we all know it was off of that trailer, and then of course it being pushed back to 2021, we can at least say that him joining the studio is fantastic. He has been around since the beginning of Halo. He worked on Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST, Reach. He's written multiple Halo books. Of course, he's worked on Destiny also before coming back to Microsoft. And so this is exciting news, and I'm really excited about it. Just had to real quickly add this to this video, but we'll go ahead and get on to the next part of this video. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the undo redo button. Now this has recently come out in a Halo Waypoint article saying that the undo redo button is something that has been announced in Halo Infinite, and a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, and they've been linking me, and all these forgers online have been posting around. And I'm just so confused because we have known this since 2019, but I guess a lot of people didn't realize it. I believe it was here in one of the FORGEHUB articles where Michael Schwartz, he actually talks about, he gave that little nugget of information about Infinite's Forge that we will get a undo redo button. So, but I guess a lot of people didn't know about that. So this is definitely exciting news. This is something we have been asking for I think since pretty much Halo 3 times. As well as the undo redo button in Infinite's Forge, there are some other things that the community has always been asking for to be able to have in Forge, and one of those things is AI. AI is something that all of us have really wanted in there, and hopefully crosses our fingers that it will be in Infinite's Forge. To be able to have something like AI, you can build campaign maps or firefight maps, or just maps similar to that, or just have multiplayer maps but has AI in there also, so that you will have to worry about dealing with as well as the other team. It would be really cool to be able to have that type of thing in Infinite's Forge, just so we can make something more unique, because I know there's a lot of people who like recreating certain sections of campaign levels in Halo, or making their own entirely new Halo levels, but naturally without AI it can't really feel 100% like a campaign level. So being able to have AI in there can actually make it to where we can create something unique and have a really cool thing that can't be done in any previous Forge iteration. Now, another big want in the Forge community is terrain editing. Hopefully we could get terrain editing in Infinite. Now, I know other games like Far Cry have terrain editing, which Far Cry does the natural aesthetic really well, because they're able to do other things like painting trees down. You can paint different materials, so the materials blend really nicely. It's not like where it is in Halo 5 currently right now, or any previous Halos, where you put down let's say a sand terrain piece, and then you put down a grass terrain piece, and you see that hard edge between the two. If you're able to actually paint different terrain and stuff, or different materials of, you know, sand or grass or just anything else, leaves, dirt, something like that, you can actually paint it and they'll nicely blend together really well. So that's something that a lot of people have been asking for. And of course, like I said earlier, terrain editing to be able to raise and lower the terrain so you don't have to use up all the pieces of the terrain, like all your budget, you know, your, you know, what is it right now in Halo 5, 1600 or something like that budget. I probably use, whenever I make a map, probably about 800 of those pieces or even more are terrain pieces, just because I do a lot of natural, you know, aesthetics in my forging. And so I have to use a lot of pieces on terrain. So that way, if we do have a terrain editor, pretty much that wipes that entire budget of those 800 pieces that I may use on a map. Now I have those extra 800 pieces to be able to use for building structures, or, you know, adding trees or just things like that to make it more beautiful and make the map more believable of an actual dev made map and not where you could tell it's kind of a forge map. Now, another thing that goes with terrain editing is placeable water. That is something we have been asking for again, a very long time. That way we could remake our, you know, Valhalla or, you know, Beaver Creek or something remakes, and of course a bunch of other just new maps. But I know a lot of people who do Beaver Creek or even remake Valhalla, like they have to use the decal glitch or something in Halo 5 or just something like that to make it actually look like water. So it would be really nice to be able to have either water volumes or, you know, water sheets. That would be great. I know Tom French said in Halo 5 water sheets, they did have like I believe he said that they had a like temporary version of water sheets, but they weren't up to par with a, you know, AAA game. They didn't have like any, if you walk through it, they didn't make any noise. They were just basically there visually. They didn't actually, you know, react to you shooting your gun and everything, which I understand. They want to try to make it as best as possible on there. And of course now Halo 5's like is maxed out. They can't add anything into Halo 5 at all, which is unfortunate because I would like to be able to get, you know, maybe a few more things. There's a few things I would like tweaked with Halo 5's Forge, but unfortunately I don't think they're going to be worried about that since Infinite Forge is not too far away. But yeah, so you know, to be able to have a water sheet or a water volume or something, we can add water wherever we want, and it's not stuck to trying to build on a canvas like Tidal, and, you know, things like that where you can lower the water. The problem is if you have terrain near the water of Tidal, it turns to sand, so that causes a problem. If you want basically grass to show up right up until, you know, the water, which you can't do that on Tidal because it'll turn that terrain piece into sand. So it would be nice to be able to have, you know, some, you know, just water sheets to be able to place out. That way you can have, you know, your beautiful aesthetic, your beautiful environment look a little bit more realistic and don't have to use the whole decal glitch to be able to actually have that there. And the last thing I'm going to mention off of the wish list of Forge, which this is only going to be the last thing I'm going to mention. There's still tons more that people have been wanting in Infinite's Forge, but this is just, to me, the few most important things. But this last thing that I'm going to mention is more stable or better scripting. Right now, scripting is kind of wonky a lot of times. You can kind of work around to make stuff better, but it's also a little bit confusing. If you want to be able to make an object rotate 360 degrees or have a grouped together object, I know I've had some problems with this. I tried having this giant box rotate because I was going to have a map inside of the box and the whole box rotates. So while you're fighting on the map, the box is rotating. So technically the entire map is rotating. I tried doing that, but the problem is that the rotation doesn't go perfect. It gets kind of weird and messed up. So I know that there's ways to fixing it, but it gets very convoluted. It gets kind of ridiculous to be able to do that. So personally, I would prefer it to be able to have a more stable and better scripting, because right now it's kind of rough and there's a lot of times scripts just completely break whenever they shouldn't break. Whenever you do a simple script on something and it should work, it all of a sudden doesn't work. So to be able to have better or stable scripting would be great. Now we're going to go ahead and go on to a little bit more news. That's enough of the Forge, enough of the wish list things. But the one thing that was announced recently was that multiplayer will be free in Halo Infinite. And that is huge. That means that a massive player base will be able to join and play. Now, the real question is, how does this affect Forge and customs? because right now, you know, campaign is going to be the paid thing. Does multiplayer include Forge and Customs? Because if it does include Forge and Customs, that means we can get a flood of user generated content and plenty of people being able to come and join up in custom games without actually having to own Halo Infinite. They just go and download it, play for free. So that way you can have a massive community. They don't have to worry about budget issues of being able to have enough money to buy the game. They're just able to, you know, hop on, download it and play it with everyone. So this is going to be huge. If Forge is part of the free multiplayer, that will be huge. That basically means that we will have tons of maps being created, and we'll be getting some incredible maps being created from people who aren't really into Halo too much, but so they don't want to pay for it, but they have always wanted to try the level editor. So that way they can hop in, they can make something in, you know, Infinite Forge, if of course it's free, hopefully, crossing fingers it is, because that will be massive. And also a lot of people will be able to join up and just try Forge for the first time, and without having to pay $60 to be able to try this level editor, which is probably, I would say, Halo's level editor is one of the best, if not the best, on console. And finally, we come to the last bit of news that has been announced recently, and that is the Halo Infinite delay. So it was recently announced that Halo Infinite will be delayed until 2021. We don't know when in 2021. It's rumored to be Q1. So it could be the first quarter, which will be, I think, the latest is March in the first quarter. It was rumored that Phil Spencer said something like that. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt there. But still, though, it was delayed till 2021, which I think this was a very smart move. Infinite's the 8-minute campaign demo, while I really enjoyed it, you could definitely tell there was a lot of issues there. There was like Marines that weren't holding the gun turrets correctly. Like, even though the gun turret was pointed down and the handles were up here, his hands were like way down here. There was grass popping in around the Warthog. There was clouds popping in. There was like huge chunks of mountains and stuff, like rocks popping in with trees floating in midair. There's definitely some problems there that they need to get, you know, polished and everything. So I'm very happy that it did get delayed. And this could also mean that we will be getting a beta or a flighting for, you know, Halo Infinite, which is needed. So hopefully that will happen now, because I know they did kind of say that they don't have the time for that earlier before it was delayed. They didn't really have the time for an open beta or things like that. So hopefully that means that we will be getting a nice open beta, so everyone gets to jump in, you know, give their thoughts about the game, you know, find any issues with the game, so that way 343 can have it released in, you know, great condition. And so crossing our fingers on that. But yeah, so since Infinite was delayed, while it sucks because that means we have to wait until next year to play it, it's good because it needs to be polished more. It needs to be more finished and completed. And so I'm really happy about that. So that way we can get the best possible Halo Infinite. And so not something that comes out kind of broken, kind of like Halo 5, because Halo 5 was missing a lot of features like Forge, BTB. And so we kind of don't want that for Infinite. So we want everything to be there day one. And I think delaying the game was a smart move, so that way we can actually get that and get a full-fledged game. So Halo will definitely, you know, hopefully get the popularity of what it once was, or at least close to what it once was. It's going to be difficult to get to where Halo 3 days. But definitely, I hope with it being the multiplayer being free, hopefully Infinite will release in a good state. And, you know, Forge, if it's gonna, it already has undo redo buttons, so we know it's gonna be better than Halo 5 Forge. And so that way, you know, if Infinite Forge is much better than Halo 5's, I'm gonna be very excited about this game. So that'll be it for this first video. It's a bit of a long one because it had a lot to talk about. Most of the time we're gonna be, you know, releasing news the same day that something big comes out. But this one was just my first video that I'm gonna be uploading on here. You know, I can expect many more videos like from me with map features and also just more news videos. So if y'all enjoyed this, be sure to give it a like. Leave a comment down below on what you're excited about with Halo Infinite. Are you excited about, you know, the prospect of different things with Forge, like terrain editing, or just some other stuff that you have ideas for with Forge? Be sure to leave a comment down below with that. I will see y'all in the next video, and remember, let's forge a new Halo.